I'm Anisa Rashad, and I am excited that you chose to join us today. After years and years of thinking about it, talking about it, and praying about it, I am delighted that you chose to join us for the virtual launch party of AnisaRashad.com, a community for women executives just like you, a place for us to come together to share strategies, get inspiration, and have fun. So let's do that. I have over 20 years of experience working with women just like you. And as I work with these women executives over the years, I began to see a consistent theme, multiple themes around being overworked, being tired, being frustrated. And so, what I want you to do is if you want to participate as we go through this morning, you can go to the YouTube description and click on, so in the description that you went to get to the event, you should see something that says show more, show more. And so when you get to the show more, if you click that button, you'll look and you'll see a link. Once you see that link, click that link and press play. That will allow you to view it from our events page and allow you to be able to play with us as we have our experience today. So I'll give you a few moments to do that. Again, if you go to if you go to the description inside of YouTube and go to show more, click on that. Once you click on that, you should see a link. Once you see that link, if you click on the link and press play, you'll be able to view us and then be able to participate in the Q&A. The Q&A is listed on the left side of your toolbar, and it should say Q&A. So if you click there, as a matter of fact, if you've done it, just let me know that you're there by saying, hey, say your name and your location so I can know that you're out there. So if you were able to do it, show me your name and your location so I'll know that you're there. All right, so I see people coming through. Good, very good. We have Jacqueline from Washington, D.C. Very good. We have Jelena from New York. Very good. Okay, so I'm going to give you a couple more minutes to go. And while you're doing that, a lot of the work that we do is around helping women to create what I have come to call a... I'm Anisa Rashad, and I am excited that you chose to join us today. After years and years of thinking about it, talking about it, and praying about it, I am delighted that you chose to join us for the virtual launch party of AnisaRashad.com, a community for women executives just like you, a place for us to come together. I love technology. We have a lot of technology jumping off on the AR team. So I was talking to you, and then I found myself talking to me. Yeah, so we had to figure out how to stop that. So I no longer hear myself, so that's a good thing. Thank you for helping us get that together. And so what I was saying is that what I have come to call is I help women create a JIL. That's a JIL, a juicy integrated life. Right? A life where your work flows into your home and your home flows into your work so that you can be what I know you want to be, a celebrated employee, a super mom, and a hot spouse. So you can get the President's Leadership Award, which I actually did for Operational Excellence on Monday night. I received that. So you can go to work and get the Presidential Leadership Award. And then you can go to your child's school and participate at the parent-teacher conference, right? So you put on your cape, go to the school, and participate in the parent-teacher conference. But then you can come home, take that cape off, and be a hot spouse. If you are with me, if you are out there and you want to be a celebrated employee, a super mom, and a hot spouse, let me see you in the QA section so I can know that I have my tribe, so that I know you're out there in our community. If you're out there and you want to be a celebrated employee, a super mom, and a hot spouse, let me see you. Oh, wow. Wow, I love it. I love it. I love it. We have Maria from Irvine, California. Very good. Oh, we have Bhargavi calling in, dialing in from Chicago. Oh, wow. It's official. We're 3 minutes in, and we have gone global. Yay! So we have our first international person who logged in. We have Nadia from Belgium. So it's nice to have you on the line with us. So we are very, very excited about the panel of women that we have assembled here today for you. We have three amazing women who are very dynamic and thought leaders in the field of women's issues. First, we have with us Michelle Patterson. Michelle, this woman is a visionary, an author, a CEO of the Women Network, which is a digital network of women's organizations, and she is the executive director of the Global Women Foundation, which does leadership and advocacy for women around the globe. Truly a trailblazer. And when she's not speaking at the UN or hanging out with Ariana Huffington, right, she puts on the largest conference for women in North America, the California Women's Conference. So, Michelle, I am honored to have you on the call with us today. Say hello so everybody can see.
Oh, thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you. Next, we have Dr. Portia Jackson. I have worked at NASA, started my career at NASA and worked there for 11 years. And I actually got to meet and train literal rocket scientists. And I can say over my years of knowing rocket scientists, I have not met many that are like the next person I'm about to introduce to you. So we have Dr. Portia Jackson, who is literally a rocket scientist, an aerospace engineer by training, but her brilliance does not stop there. She is also very gifted at personal financial planning and is passionate about working with working moms. She has a podcast that is you can find it at workingmotherhood.com. Workingmotherhood.com is her podcast. So I'm excited to introduce you to Dr. Portia Jackson. Say hi.
Everybody. Yes. Excited to be here. This is going to be awesome.
Yay. And next, we have coming to the stage all the way from the big old state of Texas. We have Miss Kimberly Camacho. Kim has over 17 years of experience in diversity and inclusion, changing the face of the corporate landscape in Fortune 100 companies. She's worked from the healthcare industry to the aerospace industry, making a difference in the lives of employees. Kim, we are excited to have you with us today. Say hello to everyone.
Hello, everyone. Glad to be here.
Yes. And so we're going to jump in and get started because today is about the people who have dialed in. We want to have these ladies pour into you and share just information from their experiences. So we're going to get started with Michelle. I know that you do a lot of traveling, and I'm just curious because as executive women, we do have to travel a lot. I'm curious how does travel play out in your life, and what are some of the strategies that you use to make it work for you and your family?
Good question, and I didn't always have this down. It was really up until the last year and a half, 2 years, I sat down and looked at, what is it that are my key values, and went through, and it was family, and I felt like I was torn constantly. And so what I've been doing is I've had the opportunity to bring my family with me. My daughter travels with me, Jacqueline Patterson. You mentioned speaking at the UN, and I brought her on our 16th birthday, and she ended up speaking at the UN, which was amazing.
That is who gets to do that?
I know.
Mom is Michelle Patterson. You get to do that.
I know. And then we had the Bahamas Women's Conference, and I was speaking there and brought my entire family. So we had the conference, and then we stayed an additional week after. So doing stuff like that really, really helps. My husband and I, went on our date night last night. So it's making time. My dad he traveled a lot when I was a kid, but I always felt like he was present. And when he would get home, I knew he was there. He was completely, in tune with our family. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't buried in laptop, or he wasn't buried in his phone. I mean, he was there. And so for me, when I am living my juicy life, and I love that you say that, Anisa, when I'm living my juicy life, it's truly, being present and being there.
Great. Kimberly, I know you travel a lot because we actually just had dinner Friday night in Manhattan Beach. So you were in California. So talk to me, and I know you have a small little one who adores you. So sort of like, what is the impact of when you're away traveling, and what are some of the strategies that you employ to make it work for your family and your life?
Yes, travel has got to be one of the hardest pieces for me to deal with emotionally, because I am very attached to my 7-year-old daughter as well as my husband. And I think what works for me is doing the best you can with what you have. So with my company, I'm very fortunate that the locations that I go to offer an opportunity for me to connect with friends in the local area, like Anisa. And also I find things in the local area to do that really fulfill me as an individual. So before I plan a trip, I will check out the local area, and I'll find a place that will allow me to do yoga, which is my church. So I get a little bit of that in, and then I get a little bit of the culture in, the different communities that are there. It allows me to immerse myself in a way that I get some benefit from the trip. I think technology is very important to remain connected to your family. So I can't take my child with me on trips. She's only 7, unfortunately. But I use Skype, and I call her on the phone as much as I can to stay connected with her. And, before I go on trips, I try to do the little things that have her think of me, like writing her little notes to surprise her in her lunchbox. These are all things that I do to stay connected. And travel is just inevitable. You've got to do it. But if you can find a way to maximize your connectedness and still get fulfillment for yourself, you could strike balance.
I love it. What I hear when I listen to what Michelle said, and when I listen to what you said, I have a good friend in my professional association, and they always talk about this concept of a workcation, like a workation.
I like that.
It sounds like, isn't that awesome? And
awesome.
what it sounds like, I hear you do as much as possible, because you are on the road a lot. You try to find ways to weave in your family, like when you took your family with you to the Bahamas, Michelle, or Kim, how you will find a yoga studio in a city where you're traveling, as much as possible, because we give so much of our time and our energy and our essence to our organizations. It is very, very important that you find ways to weave that workcation into what you do. So strategy number 1, I would say, try to find ways to weave in the workcation into your work experience. And I know I travel a lot, and often my schedule is very tight, and my whole entire goal in life is to get done with the work, get on the plane, and get back to my family, and hopefully be able to have dinner with them, or at a minimum be able to kiss my baby before he goes to sleep. And so I know that I don't look for those opportunities for workation, because I'm trying to trailblaze back to the airport. But after listening to you ladies today, I'm going to personally look for ways that I can include a little bit of workation into my life. So Portia, wanted to ask you, tell me, because I know you're creating this awesome, so I want you to tell us a little bit about working motherhood and what the great work that you're doing over there. And if you ladies are interested in going over, also in the description for this broadcast if you look at the links below, there's a link for the Working Motherhood podcast that I was interviewed by Dr. Portia Jackson, and it was awesome. She's an awesome person. So I encourage you to go. It is a daily podcast, and I'm sure she's going to tell you, but I personally listen to Working Motherhood when I'm in the kitchen cooking dinner and helping my son with his homework. I have the Working Motherhood podcast on my iPad on the counter. So, Portia.
Yes. Well, thank you for that, and once again, thank you for being on the show. You had such an amazing episode, gotten so much great feedback about that. But the Working Motherhood basically is a community of working moms, and as you know, building a Jill, a juicy integrated life, love that. Just saying that just makes me happy. But, when we're doing that, oftentimes we don't get to hear the stories of other working moms and what they're going through. So when I became a new mom, I would always love podcasts because I like to refer to my car as like a university on wheels, right? So I like to learn things when I drive, because how many times can you listen to Bruno Mars in a row before you're just like, okay, you got locked out of heaven, like we get it. So I really enjoy, using that time to learn something. And so what Working Motherhood is just a collection of interviews with today's most inspiring and successful working moms, like Miss Anisa Rashad here. And so we've had some really amazing guests on. We go over challenges that they've had as a working mom. We've gone over their wow moments, so points in their, working motherhood journey that they've really felt like they were achieving that work-life integration, because we try to stay away from the B word of balance, because you kind of think that, somewhat unattainable, but integration can definitely happen. And then we go over just some advice that they have, maybe their favorite quote. And so it's just a daily 30-minute podcast, and like you mentioned, you can see it at workingmotherhood.com, and we're always looking for amazing women to share their stories to uplift and encourage others to have their juicy integrated life like Anisa talks about. And so, if you're interested, you can come visit us. Hopefully you'll listen and get some really good tips from that.
So strategy number 2, it sounds like, is really around making your car a university, right?
Definitely.
So we have our workcation and we have making our car a university. Yes, Portia?
Yes, because think about all the time you spend in your car, right? So whether you're listening to an audiobook or a podcast or something, just think of that as extra time in your day. You don't want to have, so much time. Like, I spend about an hour a day in my car. I have about a 30-minute commute each way. So if you think about that, that's 5 hours a week that you can spend learning something as opposed to just kind of jiving along to your favorite tunes, which is fine too. But, maybe you might want to split up the time. But I think that's, I found that to be one of the things that really helps out with success.
I love it. And as a person who maybe a year or so ago acquired an 1 hour to an hour and a half plus commute one way, having your car be a university is a part of my sanity program. Like, I have to do that in order to be able to stay on the road for that long. So at least I feel like I'm enriched, like I'm learning something. And another thing that I do in that car during that commute time, I also use it as an opportunity to connect with people that I love, because often as your career takes off, as you get busier and busier and your corporation or your organization is making more and more demands of you, it's harder and harder to fit in those moments where you're able to love on the people that you love and that love you. And so every day I call my mom on my way to work. I live in California. My mom lives on the East Coast in North Carolina, and often people will say to her, well, do you ever hear from your daughter in California? Or like, when's the last time? She's looked at her watch a couple of hours ago, because I make sure, because it's a part of my Jill being able to stay connected to the people that I know and love. And so as a part of my car university, I make sure I call a friend and I schedule it. I put it on my calendar, and I'll have a person that I went to graduate school with at Johns Hopkins or somebody I used to work with at NASA, and I will just put it on Thursday at 2 o'clock. Call Nicole. I never reach her, but at least she knows I love her, I'm thinking about her, and that she's in my heart and mind.
Yeah, because, I guess part of living a juicy integrated life is making sure you're not losing time, right? Because you only have 168 hours in a week. So if you're spending this time maybe in line at the grocery store or in your car, like those are times, like you said, you can call family, you can, learn something. I have like different books on my phone that I just scroll through when I'm just waiting in line, I don't know, at the DMV or something. And so it's just, you're able to kind of capture that time, and I think that's so important. You'll be surprised how much time slips through the cracks if you don't monitor it.
I love it. I love it. I love what this is. And this is what I want to create for AnisaRashad.com. My preference is to be cheek to cheek, heart to heart, belly to belly with you so that we're in that same space. And with the way our lives are, we're not always able to do that. So I wanted to bring us together in a place where we can do this, have these types of conversations so that we can support each other and help each other. So Kim, I wanted to ask you, when was the last time you felt like you missed the mark on either being a good wife, a good mother, a good executive, but you just kind of felt like, didn't really nail that one to the wall? I'm going to ask each one of you. I'm going to start with Kim, move to Michelle, and then on to Portia.
Wow, that's a very timely question. I have to say it was in my relationships. I think that I missed the mark recently with my husband. Definitely, as working moms and traveling and the stresses of, knowing what's happening with your children, knowing what's happening with your family, and just dealing with constantly this phone, you're never disconnected from work, and you always want to be on your game, It's like this constant, for me, this constant flux of having to rise to the occasion, having to just be the best. And I think for me as a wife recently, it was very hard. I definitely felt I was very stressed out. And one a couple days ago, very stressed out, and something my spouse did just set me off. It just wasn't perfect. I was expecting so much from him to deliver to me, and I just kind of flew off the handle. And I reflect back on it, and I thought, this is where you're not giving enough to the people that invest in you. And it was really sort of an eye-opening experience for me, because I felt really bad that sometimes the people around us, they depend on you, you depend on them, but it's often in your whole, roller coaster of achieving, you kind of hurt the ones you love in the process. It's happened a little bit with my daughter sometimes when I'm just in a rush to get out of the house, and she's like, mommy, just, and, little moments like that, you really have to correct yourself, stand back and be present. I think Michelle was saying, being present is so difficult when you're on the go, and it's hard, but definitely a couple days ago with my spouse, I felt like I wasn't present. I was caught up in delivering something to other people, trying to be perfect, trying to be like, oh yeah, I could totally get that, whatever you need for my job, and I just was shortchanging my spouse, and that's one of the most important relationships to keep me afloat. So I think it's that, Anisa. It's just, I missed the mark with that, and you've got to course correct in those cases, because you've got to keep the ones you love close. It's going to help you in the long run. So.
And so, Kim, what I want you to know, and if you're out there and you're listening, I want you to type into the Q&A, I C M, right? And really, it's like, I want that to stand for like, it's me too, right? I see you, it's me too, right? It includes me. You are not alone, Kim. We all miss the mark in our important relationships. Sometimes it's our relationship with our spouse, sometimes it's with our children. I mean, even as I prepared for this, life showed up, right? And so as life was showing up, my son, we were doing dry runs one night earlier this week, and then I had a function, and I came home from the function, and my son had fever and chills. I'm like, oh my God, he's sick for real. So it's not even like an allergy attack and you get out the EpiPen or whatever. No, he's actually sick. He actually needs mothering. Right. And so in that moment, I had to, make a choice. Do I get everything ready so that the AR launch is like I want it to be, right? Or do I help my son? Well, what you do is in those moments you choose, you do the best you can do for each thing. So I supported my son to the degree that I could support him, and then I let him know, okay, so this is not going to be where mommy's going to get all in the bed and just hold you for hours, right? I'm going to get you all the stuff you need to help you get better, and I'm going to have to get up and keep it moving so that I can be accountable for and responsible to all the parts of my life, all the people who are depending on me. So Michelle, I want to hear from you. Tell us about a time when you dropped the ball, right? Just did not happen. Either been a good spouse, a good friend, a good mom, good executive. Tell us about it.
I think it's important too is not to be so hard on ourselves as well, because I mean all of us. I think the hardest thing was, okay, which one am I going to talk about? One of the things that we do with the California Women's Conference and rolling out Women Network and putting these conferences all over the world is we look at the 5 to Thrive. Mm-hmm. And so we worked with Gallup Poll. We looked at the last 50 years of study. What makes a life your best life, like a life really worth living? And so the 5 were career, how you spend your time. Physical is just having the energy to do the things that you want to do. Financial, having the means to do the things that you want to do. Social is the relationships. And then community, being able to go ahead and be of service. And
Repeat those, Michelle, because that's yet another strategy. So I want to make sure that our ladies are getting that 5 to Thrive. You started with career, so go down the line and say those again for us.
Physical, social, financial, and community. And what they found over these 50 years was that you had to have all 5, touching all 5. And again, you're not going to have all of them, running perfectly, but you're having that balancing and you're paying attention. And so for me, I went through, I did the conference, working around the clock, balancing, and out of those 5, the one that I stopped paying attention to was my health. Mm-hmm. And I loved, the comment earlier about, going ahead and doing a workation and going to yoga. And truthfully, I was thinking, okay, I don't know if I would even know to go when I'm traveling and let me look up and do yoga, which I love to do. So that was one of the ones. And so I get through the conference and everything's great. I'm talking about Level Heads Prevail, the largest, longest running conference. I had the opportunity to take, over Maria Shriver's role. And I get done and I am completely spent, to the point where I ended up having, it was almost like my body was not wanting to cooperate. And ended up getting the worst case of psoriasis. So if you can imagine, it was like chicken pox, but in my hair. Like it itched like nobody's belief. In fact, Anisa got a call from me, and I went to all these different doctors, and one doctor prescribed something that when I put it on my scalp, it literally felt like somebody's burned a hole through it. And I'll never forget this. In the morning, I'm getting ready because I'm going to speak. And this lady stands up and she says, you've got it all together, and wow, you've got the perfect family, and you've got this amazing job. And there's 500 people, and I said no, none of us have it all together. I said that's what's so neat about life is this journey that we're going on, and we're learning. I said just this morning, I'm in the shower, my husband's walking by, and I'm in tears. I'm crying this morning because my hair is falling out. The clumps of my hair is falling out because of this terrible psoriasis. And the piece, and this is the message I want to share with the group is, I reached out to my friends. Anisa, you heard from me. And I, asked around, went to some different doctors. Nothing was giving me relief. And I asked my sister. And I said to my sister, I go, have you had anything like this? And do you know? And she's like, oh my gosh. So she tells me it was something I found at Whole Foods, and the shampoo and then tea gel. Put it on, and right away it was gone.
Thank God for sisters. Thank God for sisters.
And I think that's what this to me is all about is, check your ego, check, your pride, and ask for the help. And, we do masterminds, we do, and so I surround myself with incredible women that give me great, great advice. And so again, it goes back to, but that was one of them where again, I had all four. The other four were working along, but that fifth one with the physical, I just completely ignored it. And now, I've got my hair's looking here.
No, so I'm just going to do what we call, I'm going to keep it 100. I'm going to keep it real. Because I knew about Michelle when she was going through and the hair was falling out, and then I saw her, we went out on date night with our lovers, and I saw her, and I said, "Oh, Michelle, you got little extensions? Got some hair extensions?" She's like, "No, Anisa, this is all me. This is all me." We were doing the happy dance, right? Because she put that time and she put that attention back on herself. So will you be perfect as that executive, the executive mom? No. Will there be times when you're not able to focus on those five? And I want to reiterate those: the career, the physical, the social, the financial, and the community. Will there be times when it feels like it's not quite integrated? Of course there will. But you're seeing from these ladies how once you fall down, you get back up. If you get a little bit off track, you get yourself together and you get back up. You call on the support of your friends, is what I hear. You call on the support of your family to help you get it back together. So that's also another strategy. Portia, we want to hear from you.
Yes. Okay, well, like we mentioned before, which one to choose, right? But the one that popped into my mind, which is probably the best one to share, is what I do for my girls. I have two little girls. I have a 2.5-year-old and I have a 7-month-old, and I keep what's called the 1-line-a-day book for them. So it's for 5 years, and for each day you just write a quick 1 or 2 sentence thing about like their day. And so I do it like every other day because I just don't have time to do it every day. But I was looking through and reading some of them, and they always started with, "Daycare said you did this today," or "Your dad dropped you off here and said you did this." It was very rare for me to say that I saw something that they were doing, or that I was able to say, "Oh, I love when you did this." And for me, that was just like, whoa, am I dropping the ball on like the motherhood thing? Because like I feel like I'm living your life through everyone else. Since I work full time, I go into the office like around 7:30, and I mean I pick them up from daycare, but between daycare, which is probably about 5:30, they go to sleep around 7:30. It's like 2 hours. And so I don't know, for me it's just like, am I spending enough time with them? Like, do I really this part of their life is going to go by so fast, and it's just really, that's my biggest challenge right now is, I'm very driven in my career, but I'm very driven to be a great mom too. So that's kind of where I'm just like, am I dropping the ball on this? How did my mom do it? Because I had a working mom, and I think I turned out okay. I don't know. My husband thinks I'm a little crazy, but besides that, so it's just one of those things that I guess is kind of a constant mental struggle for me. So on the weekends, I try to spend more time with them, but during the week, sometimes I really feel like I'm kind of dropping the ball on the whole development thing and all that. So that's kind of the one that I'm just like, how am I working through this?
And it's the "you are not alone." As you're saying, I'm like, Kim, Michelle, raise your hand if that happens to you. It's not just because your kids are young, right? As your children get older, I think Kim's daughter's a little bit older than your kids. My son's a little bit older than Kim's daughter. And Michelle, your kids are a little bit older than my son. And at each stage, you still have that sense of, I call it the mommy guilt, right?
Yeah.
Where you feel like in some area, shape, form, or fashion, you are dropping the ball for them. You are letting them down. So, Michelle, are you able to come home and cook dinner every night? She tells this great story about how her son said, "Well, my mom doesn't do that." Share that with them in a minute. But even when you're not able to do that, who can have their daughter speak at the UN on their 16th birthday? Am I cooking dinner every night? No. But am I just creating a life for you and exposing you to things that will change the whole course and trajectory for the rest of your life? Yes. So tell the story about your son.
I got to tell you, it's so funny because when you just said that, Michelle, are you going to cook dinner? My heart just went, like, even hearing you say that. I can't cook toast. Like I have like burn marks. So I have to tell you. So this was last year. So my son is best friends with Alex, who lives down the street. They have a family of 10, and just brilliant family. And so our friend, Trina, who has these 10 kids, and she is making pancakes for all of her kids plus some of the neighborhood kids. My son's over and she's flipping these pancakes, and so my son's sitting there at the table and he says, wow, like, you're really good, cook. My mom can't make pancakes. My mom's a terrible cook. My mom's, she's just not good at that. So he's telling all the kids this. And so Trina's listening to this, and she sits down at the end of the table, and she looks at my son, and she says, Chase, she goes, your mom might not be a great cook, but let me tell you what she's doing. She's helping other moms, and she's doing this. And God gave us all these different skills and all these different talents, and we help each other. So my son hears this. Well, he runs home, and he says to me, and he goes, Mom, this is what I said. I think you're great. So he's telling me, he threw his mom under the bus, but he loves me. I'm great. And I call up Trina, and I said to her, and I go, Trina, I go, thank you so much for using that moment as a teaching moment for my son. And she says to me, she goes, Michelle, she goes, I see all the things you're doing and, very active. And I think, gosh, I'm not doing those things. And next thing you know, there we both are. I'm on the phone crying. She's on the phone crying. And we're talking about the fact that, it's not about doing this comparison. It's not about the working moms and the stay-home moms. And, it's when we come together, we are so powerful. We are truly powerful. And women have the ability to develop rapport so quickly and really help each other. And so, and I'm telling her, I go, Trina, first of all, you homeschool, all those kids. She writes one of the largest blogs that's out there. And, and it was such a special moment. And we were able to go ahead and give her an award, for when we had Women Network Day. And so I point that out. It's because what happens is, and this is for people, this is just not women, but, when you're hurting, you hurt. And so it's being able to stop and say, are my reactions, am I acting out of love or am I acting out of insecurity? Mm-hmm. And for me, Trina, talk about, I will forever, ever be grateful. Here she took that time. She could have been over there flipping pancakes saying, you're right, Chase. I am the best pancake maker, and that's too bad that your mom's gone and she travels and she's not around. Wow, that's too bad.
And your mom sucks. Basically.
And your mom sucks, And so think about it. It's how do we show up for each other? How do we show up? And we don't have to have all the answers, but collectively we have the answers and we can help each other out and we can support one another.
Absolutely. And so I want to ask you, ladies, because it's a theme in this conversation I hear. Michelle always says better together. And I created this community at anisarashad.com so that we can share our strategies and get inspiration from each other and to just have fun with each other. And I know, Portia, you have the Working Motherhood podcast so that you can interview these amazing women and share our stories. And Kim, you do it inside of Fortune 100 companies. And so I want to ask you, how have you used communities of women, groups of women to support you in what you do, support you in having your GL? How do you use women groups to help you have your GL? Why is it important to have a community like what we have here at anisarashad.com?
Okay, I guess I'll start. Is that okay?
Yes,
okay.
Absolutely.
Well, one way that communities like yours has really helped me out, well, it's been a few things. So one is getting resources because by talking about your challenges and what you're struggling with, as well as talking about what's working well for you, I've been able to find resources to add to my life. Like a lot of moms have told me about grocery delivery and just all these different delivery services, which surprisingly saves so much time out of your week. I don't have to drive to Costco and trample around this huge store. I mean, I'll get my 10,000 steps in for the day, but then I've also lost like 2 hours of my life, right? So to be able to have that delivered, and just some other resources like that as well has been great that I've gotten from the working motherhood community. And the reverse of that is something that's working well for me. I'm able to share it with others. So I think that's really important, and one thing that you have with a community, and knowing that you're not alone, which I think is huge. Like I just had a guest on the show recently. Well, she's coming up. I just interviewed her, and she was talking about how one of her very close friends, she had 3 kids, and her kids were best friends with my guest, her kids. She dropped her kids off, regular day, and then drove to the Grand Canyon and jumped off. Like she ended her life because of all of the stress and everything that she had. And what stuck out to me was no one saw this coming. No
Wow.
one, she just seemed to have a normal life. Like we never know what's really going on behind the scenes with people. And I think if she would have had a community where she felt comfortable just saying, hey, you know what, I'm just going to keep it real. I'm struggling with this. I'm feeling really stressed out about this. I think she could have found other solutions to that. And so I just knowing that you're not alone and that other people are having the same struggles as you. Because if you think about it in this day and age with our social media driven world, people are always projecting these images of themselves that they want us to think about themselves, right? It's not always reality. Like we see, I think one of my favorite pastors mentions it as, we see people's highlight reel and we compare it to our behind the scenes. And that's
That's
unfair,
awesome.
and it's not because we don't see all the struggles that they go through. So by having community and having that place where you can keep it real and it's not the Facebook version of you or it's not the Twitter version of you, I think is really important with community. So I think what you're building here is really great and it's going to be really helpful for just executive women and just women in period.
When I hear you say that, I literally had to pick up my tissue because it just moved me in a deep place. That woman should have never been that isolated. She should have never been that separated from her
Yeah.
tribe. And that is, of over 20 years of doing this, I would hear women share their stories about how it's lonely at the top. And it doesn't have to be. Like
Right.
Michelle and I, we got this thing down. I will call her, or she will, like we've had calls this week where we've had to support each other. I've had to have a challenging conversation with one of my vendors or a contractor who's supporting me in the work that we're building here. And hey, I just had to have a really difficult conversation. And you want to just have somebody to talk through it because as women business leaders, as women business owners, you're going to run into all types of challenges. So it's nice to have somebody to just bend their ear, to vent to.
Right.
Sometimes it saves you from having to go home and vent to your husband. Raise your hand if you go home and vent to your husband.
Yeah.
Yes?
Not anymore. 18 years of marriage, I've figured out not to do that.
help us who haven't
Yeah.
been married as long. Like you go and you share all of that stuff. And so it's nice to have a community of women where I can call Kim on the phone and say, hey, this is what's going on. At least filter it before you have to give them the long version of the story. At least by then,
Right.
Portia, you can share the highlight, the ESPN highlight reel. I love that. That's a tweetable. That is a tweetable right there.
Yeah.
We
And
compared.
yeah, and the important part is knowing that you have that expectation where you can kind of let your guard down, right? Where you can say, I am struggling. Because a lot of times that I found with different women's networks, particularly within corporations, it's all about success. And like, oh, I got this promotion, or I'm working towards this, position, or I got this person as my mentor, which is great. I think there's a time and a place for that, and I think that's really should be the focus of some groups. But I think it needs to be known that there are communities and there are groups where you can just say, yeah, I'm doing well with this area, but you know what? I feel like I don't see my kids enough. Or I'm struggling with this area, or this area is going well, but my husband and I haven't talked in a couple days. So just having that expectation where it's not you're not going to be seen as less of a woman or less of a successful person just because you have struggles going on. Because really, if someone says they're not struggling with an area, I would question their honesty, right? Because there's always some area that needs some type of improvement. So that's all I'm saying.
Portia, I'm glad you said that, because one of the things I want to reiterate, what we're building in this community is just that. It's a place, it's a safe place for you to come. A lot of times as executive women, we're type A. We're running the show at work, right? We are, some of us try to run the show at home. We're all over doing a lot of things, but this is a place where you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to get the highest mark on the test. This is a place where you can come and say, you know what? I didn't get I tweeted it the other day. I was having a little breakdown. I left out the house like 5:30 in the morning. I was up facilitating a team of executives from across the across the country, and I was somewhere about my third donut hole, because I left without my Jill juice. Every morning I try to get my Jill juice in, so that my nice, good, healthy Jill juice. And I left the house without it, and surely enough, by mid-morning, I was on my third donut hole, and I just said, I need an intervention. Can somebody please help me, because I see this is not going well. And Michelle, she tweeted me back or Facebooked me or something. She was like, stop the madness. Cut it out right now. And
just say no. Say no.
Yeah. Say no. She's just say no. And it's nice to, in that moment when I'm in there and they have no idea what's going on, I'm on my third donut hole, and I'm like, this is not going in the direction I needed to go. I need somebody to break me out of this cycle. So it's nice to be able to, just like that, reach out and touch somebody in your community who has similar and shared experiences, who will not judge you, who will love on you, who will give you a word of inspiration, or will challenge you when you need to be challenged and hold you accountable when you need to be held accountable. That's what we're building at AnisaRashad.com. Kim, please, let us hear from you.
Yes. Well, a couple comments. I think one of the pieces that really resonated for me when we were talking was, especially when I heard Portia talking, was, for me, it's the wellness factor. When I take time to talk to women, and I think of you, we've had multiple conversations, being in the corporate world and connecting with each other individually. I find that when I talk to you and you just sit back and listen and really hear what I'm saying, I laugh, and I feel like my gas tank is being replenished, and that's rare, because in the corporate setting, it's so built on performance and execution and just this constant race. And it's not an environment that supports community in the sense of, I think, what you're trying to build, right? It's so refreshing, Anisa. But I think that in the long run, if you don't invest in this community, this wellness, whatever you have, this laughter, we won't get very far. I think for me, I need to take the time to connect, and I feel I go farther. So it helps me be a better person, but it's just taking the time to do that. And I've had those phone calls when you're on the freeway. So I really appreciate that. But so a couple things. One, I think the sense of laughter and validation as well. I think it's very isolating when I don't have a sense of community to connect to. It's like, I've got to go on this trip. It's a week long. I'm not going to see my kid. People keep emailing me like I have all this stuff to do. And you're kind of going on autopilot, and you don't get that sense of wellness, that sense of laughter and well-being. It's corrosive. I mean, I definitely think it's going to take a toll on you. And I think that over time, you're going to reach a sense of burnout and potentially life burnout. In the example, Portia, you provided of that woman, my heart sinks, because, it's like, where did she not feel she could connect with others? And was she on this road, this autopilot, and with no one to hear you is very, very sad. So I think that's all I wanted to say, is that, I think that connectedness is so important. We don't realize it, and this, for me at least, in the corporate world, and having a sense of community that's fully endorsed by corporate culture has been one of my challenges, right? how in your corporation do you sell this idea that women need communities? It's not almost laughable in some cases just hearing it, So we're going to work on that, but it is vital. So Anisa, just hats off to you for creating this niche. And in the corporate world, we look for these quick fixes and things like that. And I think you're really onto something with respect to connecting to women and at this level. I think it's cut edge. I really do. I think that you're paying attention to something that's vital for women, clearly by the example Portia gave. So I'm really proud of you. I'm excited to be part of your community.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you, because it really, really grew out of just that wanting to serve that demographic, because I see it and I hear it. And it's interesting because oftentimes these women, you make decent incomes, right? You generate a decent income, but the quality of life doesn't match the income. Like, you make a lot of money, but you can't take a vacation. You take a vacation, but you take your BlackBerry and you're on it the entire time. You go to your kids' program and they're looking at you from the stage like, are you taking a picture or are you returning an email? Right? And, I know we've all on this call been guilty of that. So I just want to thank you so much, ladies, for taking time out of your busy schedules to pour into our ladies. We want to remind everybody who's out there viewing to take a stroll over to anisarashad.com and check out what we've created for you. We work with you on helping you find your sweet spot, and that is your SUITE. That is your place in the executive suite. So you may not be the CEO of the company yet, but you may be on that path. If you'd like support in getting there, we support you with our coaching services to help you get there, to help you find your sweet spot. And then we're very excited about what we have coming up starting next Thursday. We have a Want an Irresistible Life? Get Jill. So we have a Get Jill teleseminar series that will consist of 4 Thursdays, starting with Thursday, October the 2nd, 7 a.m. Pacific time. That is, mark your calendars right now. Now I'm giving you permission. Get out your BlackBerries. Get out your iPhones. Get out your Samsung Galaxies. Mark October the 2nd, 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. We're kicking it off with our very own Michelle Patterson, and she's going to be giving her personal strategies for how she creates a JIL, a juicy, integrated life, helping you to be what? A celebrated employee, a super mom, and a hot spouse. Right? You got to take it off when you're a hot spouse. So we'll see you Thursday at 7. I want to remind everyone of the lessons and the strategies that were imparted today. First, we had the concept of, first, it's just about building that community and creating a workcation where you bring that yoga into your work trip, or you take your family with you when you have to speak at the women's conference in the Bahamas. And then we had Dr. Portia Jackson dropped it on us, turning your car into a university. I love it. So if you have a long commute, turn that car into a university. Find a way to allow it to feed your soul. Dial into Portia's podcast at workingmotherhood.com and listen to some inspiration for some other moms who are going through and having similar shared experiences. Then you want to do what Anisa Rashad says. You want to create your JIL, your juicy integrated life. And again, you can start doing that on Thursday at 7 a.m., October 2nd, 7 a.m. Pacific time, by dialing into our Get Jill teleseminar series. And then if you want to make something happen in your life, you have to schedule it. What is on your calendar? What gets done, right? If you don't schedule it, so if spending time with your friends or connecting with your friends is important to you, put it on your calendar just like you do. I have to speak at the conference in Texas. And then we want you to remember that you are not alone, that you have other women out there. If you ever feel like you are by yourself or on the edge or at your wit's end, I encourage you, call me, Anisa Rashad, call Dr. Portia Jackson, Michelle Patterson, Kim Camacho. This is why we are here. We are committed and we are passionate about supporting you to have the life a career life that you love. Additionally, we want you to remember the 5 to thrive. The 5 to thrive. We want you to know that it is about the career, and it is about your community, and it is about the physical and the financial, and taking care of your health. Did I leave one out, Michelle?
And then social, the
And then
relationship.
social. Oh, we need the social. We got a Friday somewhere in our future too. We got to get that on our calendar. And then you don't need to have the answers. You don't have to have all of the answers. All of the answers don't have to come from you. You can call experts that know about these things, and that is what we're creating also in our community. Then you have lift while you climb. You want to lift while you climb. You don't want to just learn. You want to be able to be like Dr. Portia Jackson. I've seen each of our speakers, as the other speakers were talking, they were taking notes. And that's what I want you to do. That's what we do. We learn from each other. You don't have to be the only one with the answers. I certainly don't have all the answers. But I guarantee you, I know people who know the answers. And that's what you want to do. You don't have to be perfect and polished and have it all together, but you got to have those people in your network to help you get to where you want to be. So we want to learn from each other. We want to call on your friends when you get in that place where you need some help or support. Call your friends, call your family. God gives us all different talents and different skills. Don't get caught comparing yourself to others. You never win in that scenario. You use your gifts and your talents to your greatest abilities. And I like to end with we need to show up for each other, because when we show up for each other, when we are there for each other, when we listen and support each other, we truly, truly are, as my dear friend Michelle Patterson would say, better together. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today for our virtual launch party of AnisaRashad.com. We love you. We thank you. We appreciate you, and we look forward to playing with you, and hopefully we'll see you on Thursday at our Get Jill teleseminar series. You can find out more information about the Get Jill teleseminar series on our website at AnisaRashad.com. Until Thursday, take care.